The first time Samuel heard about Pastor Deborah, he was sitting outside his small, almost empty shop, staring at the unpaid rent notice pasted on the door. His business was crumbling, his debts were piling up, and the future looked like a dark, endless hole. He had tried everything: loans, partnerships, even fasting and praying on his own. But nothing worked. Then, one evening, his old friend Connell walked into the shop, grinning like someone who had just won the lottery. "Samuel, you're sitting here like a man waiting for death," Connell said, pulling up a plastic chair. "You haven't heard about Living Fire Ministries?" Samuel frowned. "What's that?" Connell's eyes shone with excitement. "It's not just a church. It's a place of power. Pastor Deborah, she's not like these fake pastors you see on TV. She sees things. She knows things. And when she prays for you, your problems disappear." Samuel let out a tired sigh. He had heard all this before. So many people had claimed to have the real solution to life's problems, yet he was still here, broke and frustrated. "Connell, please. I don't have time for that." Connell leaned forward. "I was just like you, Samuel. Struggling. Nothing was working. But after I went to Pastor Deborah's church, things changed overnight. She prayed for me on Sunday, and by Monday morning, I got a contract I wasn't even expecting. I didn't have to beg, I didn't have to struggle. It just happened." Samuel stared at him. "Just like that? Just like that?" Connell pulled out his phone and scrolled through some pictures. "Look at these people. That man was almost blind. Pastor Deborah touched his eyes, and now he can see. This woman was jobless for 5 years. Now she owns a big shop." Samuel hesitated, but deep down, something was stirring inside him. Could this really be the solution? "What do I have to do?" he asked. Connell grinned. "Just come on Sunday. That's all. Come and see for yourself." Sunday morning, Samuel stood outside Living Fire Ministries, staring at the massive crowd pushing to enter. The church was nothing like the small, dusty places he was used to. This was a palace. The walls were painted pure white, the golden cross at the top shining under the sun. Large glass doors swung open and shut as ushers in spotless white robes directed people inside. Expensive cars lined the parking lot. The air smelled of rich perfume and freshly cut grass. Samuel swallowed hard. He didn't belong in places like this. But he had come too far to turn back now. Taking a deep breath, he followed the crowd inside. The church was even more beautiful on the inside. A golden chandelier hung from the ceiling, sparkling like 100 small suns. The seats were soft and cushioned, arranged in neat rows leading up to the massive pulpit. At the center of it all stood Pastor Deborah. She was everything Connell had described. Tall, elegant, and glowing like an angel. Her black silk robe flowed down to her feet, and her voice was soft but powerful, filling every corner of the building. Samuel couldn't take his eyes off her. She smiled gently at the crowd, then lifted the microphone. "People of God," she said, her voice rich and commanding, "today, your suffering ends, A thunderous human filled the hall. "God is speaking to me right now," she continued. "There is a young man here. Your business is failing. You are losing everything. Your name is Samuel." Samuel's heart stopped. He wasn't the only Samuel in the church, but somehow he knew she was talking about him. "Samuel," she repeated, her piercing eyes scanning the crowd. "Come forward." Samuel's legs moved before his brain could process what was happening. The crowd parted as he made his way to the front. Pastor Deborah stepped down from the pulpit and placed a hand on his head. Her fingers were cold, but her touch sent a strange warmth through his body. She closed her eyes. "Your doors have been locked. Your enemies have laughed at you. But the Spirit of God says, your time of suffering is over." The congregation erupted into cheers. Pastor Deborah snapped her fingers. Samuel's entire body shook violently, his knees buckled, and he collapsed to the ground. Everything went dark. When Samuel opened his eyes, he was lying on the church floor. Pastor Deborah was gone. The congregation was singing, dancing, clapping. Ushers helped him to his feet, smiling at him like he had just been reborn. "Brother Samuel, your life will never be the same," one of them said. Samuel staggered to his seat, his heart pounding. Had he really just fainted in front of the whole church? He barely had time to process what had happened before the service ended. People rushed to meet Pastor Deborah, trying to touch her robe, hoping to receive a miracle of their own. Samuel didn't even wait for Connell. He left the church quickly, his head spinning. By the time he got home, he was too exhausted to think. He collapsed on his bed and fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. The next morning his phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello, Mr. Samuel," a deep voice said. "We are calling from the Government Contract Board. Your application for the road construction job has been approved. Congratulations." Samuel sat up, his heart pounding. "What? But I didn't even follow up." "You don't need to, sir. Just come and sign the papers today. The job is yours." Samuel's hands shook as he dropped the phone. He had applied for that contract months ago, but it was impossible to get without heavy connections. He had already given up on it. But now, it was his. Connell's words echoed in his mind. "She prayed for me on Sunday, and by Monday morning, my life changed." It had happened to him too. Pastor Deborah was truly sent by God. That evening, Bimbo came home to find Samuel pacing around the living room, laughing to himself. Bimbo was Samuel's younger sister. "Brother, what's going on?" she asked. Samuel turned to her, grinning. "Bimbo, God has changed my story. I got the contract. The biggest contract of my life." Bimbo blinked. "What? How?" "Pastor Deborah prayed for me yesterday, and now everything has changed." Bimbo's smile faded. "You went to that church?" Samuel frowned. "Yes, and you should come too." Bimbo shook her head. "Brother, something is not right about that woman." Samuel's excitement dropped. "What are you saying?" "I heard things, Samuel. People go for private prayers with her, and they never come back. Something is wrong." Samuel laughed. "Bimbo, please. I was there myself. I saw the power of God." Bimbo sighed. "Just be careful. If something looks too good to be true, it probably is." Samuel didn't respond. For the first time in years, his life was finally coming together. There was no way he was going to let doubt steal his miracle. Samuel barely slept that night. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened in the past 24 hours. A few days ago, he was a broke, frustrated man drowning in debt. Now, he had the biggest contract of his life, all because of Pastor Deborah. It didn't make sense. But why question a blessing? His mind kept going back to Bimbo's words. People go for private prayers with her, and they never come back. Samuel shook his head. It wasn't possible. Bimbo was just jealous. She had been praying for years, yet nothing changed in her life. Maybe she was angry that his own prayers had been answered first. He turned to the side and closed his eyes. No more doubts. Pastor Deborah was the real deal. Sometime in the middle of the night, Samuel's eyes snapped open. The room was dark, but something felt wrong. A strange hissing sound filled the air, soft but close. He turned his head slowly. Right beside his bed, on the floor, was a massive black snake. Its golden eyes glowed in the darkness, its tongue flickering in and out. It wasn't moving, just watching him. Samuel's heart stopped. He wanted to scream, but his voice refused to come out. His body was frozen, trapped in some invisible force. The snake lifted its head slowly. Then it spoke. "You belong to me now." Samuel's breath caught in his throat. The snake's voice was soft, almost like a whisper, but it filled the entire room. It sounded like Pastor Deborah. The snake slithered closer. Samuel tried to move, to run, to wake up, but he couldn't. He was trapped. The snake opened its mouth, revealing long, dripping fangs. Then it lunged. Samuel jerked awake. His whole body was covered in sweat, his heart pounding like a drum. He sat up quickly, looking around. The room was empty. No snake. No glowing eyes. Just darkness and silence. Samuel took deep, shaky breaths. It was just a dream, but it felt too real. He looked down at his arms. His skin was cold, even though he was sweating. His fingers trembled as he touched his forehead. Something wasn't right. The next morning, Samuel sat at the dining table, stirring his tea absent-mindedly. Bimbo walked in, tying her headscarf. She stopped when she saw his face. "Brother, what's wrong?" Samuel didn't look up. "Nothing." She frowned. "Are you sure? You look like someone who saw a ghost." Samuel exhaled sharply. He wanted to tell her about the dream, but he stopped himself. If he told Bimbo, she would start talking about evil spirits and false prophets. He wasn't ready for that. "I'm fine," he said. "I just had a rough night." Bimbo pulled out a chair and sat across from him. "Did you have a nightmare?" she asked. Samuel hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah." Bimbo's face darkened. "Tell me about it." Samuel forced a laugh. "It's nothing serious. Just a weird dream." Bimbo leaned closer. "Brother, listen to me. Sometimes, dreams are not just dreams. If something doesn't feel right, you need to question it." Samuel sighed. "Here we go." "Bimbo, I know what you're thinking," he said. "But I don't want to hear it. Pastor Deborah is a woman of God. She prayed for me and my life changed. I will not allow doubt to steal my blessings." Bimbo shook her head. "I'm not trying to steal anything, brother. I just want you to be careful." Samuel's voice hardened. "I don't need to be careful. I need to be grateful." Bimbo opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. She studied his face for a long moment, then sighed. "All right," she said softly. "Just promise me one thing." "What?" "If anything strange happens again, tell me." Samuel hesitated, then nodded. "Fine." Bimbo stood up. "I'm going to the market. Be careful." Samuel waved her off, but deep down, her words lingered. That evening, Samuel took off his shirt to bathe. As he reached for the sponge, his eyes froze on the mirror. There was something on his back. He turned slowly, his heart pounding. 3 long, red scratches ran down his skin, from his shoulder to his waist. Samuel stumbled backward. Where did that come from? He hadn't been in any fight. He hadn't scratched himself. But there was. Fresh. Like claw marks. His breathing grew shaky. Was it from the dream? Was it even a dream? His hands shook as he touched the marks. They stung, but not like normal wounds. It felt unnatural. Samuel stared at his reflection, fear creeping into his bones. Something was wrong. But he couldn't accept it. He had just gotten his breakthrough. His life was finally turning around. This couldn't be a sign of danger. He shook his head. It was nothing. Just stress. That was all. The next morning, Samuel sat at the dining table, but he couldn't eat. The steaming bowl of rice and stew in front of him disgusted him. His stomach growled, but the food smelled wrong. Bimbo walked in and frowned. "Why aren't you eating?" Samuel pushed the plate away. "I don't feel like it." Bimbo's eyes narrowed. "Since when?" Samuel shrugged. "I just don't have an appetite." Bimbo sat down, watching him carefully. "Are you sick?" Samuel hesitated. "No. But that wasn't true. He was hungry. Very hungry. But not for this." He didn't know what he wanted, but something inside him craved something else. Something different, asterisk asterisk. He clenched his fists. Maybe it was just stress. Maybe after a few hours it would pass. That night, Bimbo was asleep in her room when she heard a noise. A soft, shuffling sound. She sat up slowly, her heart racing. The noise was coming from the living room. She grabbed her phone and tiptoed out of her room. The living room was dark, but as she got closer, she froze. Samuel was standing in the middle of the room, his arms hanging loosely by his sides. His eyes were open, but he wasn't awake. Bimbo's breath caught in her throat. "Brother," she whispered. Samuel didn't move. He stood still, breathing slowly, his head tilted slightly to the side, like he was listening to something she couldn't hear. Then he opened his mouth. A hiss escaped his lips. Bimbo's entire body went cold. She stepped forward, shaking his shoulder. "Brother, wake up." Samuel's eyes snapped to her. For a brief second, they weren't brown anymore. They were golden, asterisk asterisk. Bimbo gasped. Then, just as suddenly, his eyes flickered back to normal. Samuel blinked, confusion washing over his face. "Bimbo?" What are you doing? Bimbo took a shaky step back. I should be asking you that. Samuel looked around, frowning. Why am I here? You were sleepwalking, Bimbo whispered. Samuel swallowed. He felt cold. His stomach churned. Something was wrong. But he couldn't admit it. Not yet. Samuel sat on the edge of his bed the next morning, his hands trembling as he stared at his feet. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. The sleepwalking. The scratches on his back. The cravings. The nightmare that didn't feel like a dream. And last night, the way Bimbo had looked at him like she had seen something terrifying. He had seen it too. For a brief moment, his eyes had turned golden. He swallowed hard and rubbed his face. He couldn't let fear take over. This was just stress. Maybe all the excitement from getting the contract was messing with his mind. Or maybe Bimbo was planting doubts in his head. She had never believed in Pastor Deborah. Maybe her negative thoughts were affecting him. Samuel shook his head and stood up. He needed to clear his mind. Later that evening, Samuel went back to Living Fire Ministries. The church was buzzing with energy, packed with people desperate for miracles. Pastor Deborah stood on the altar, glowing in her white robe, her voice smooth and powerful. But tonight, Samuel wasn't focused on the sermon. His mind was restless. He needed answers. After the service ended, he didn't leave. Instead, he lingered at the back, pretending to pray while watching Pastor Deborah's movements. She was speaking with a few chosen members, laughing softly, touching their heads as they whispered things into her ear. Then, when the crowd thinned out, she turned and disappeared through a door behind the altar. Samuel frowned. He had been coming to this church for weeks now, but he had never noticed that door before. Where did it lead? Something in his chest tightened. His feet moved before his brain could stop him. Carefully, he slipped past the remaining church members, making his way to the altar. He glanced around. No one was watching. Taking a deep breath, he pushed the door open and stepped inside. The air immediately changed. The bright, holy atmosphere of the church vanished, replaced by something cold and heavy. The hallway was narrow and dimly lit, the walls covered in strange carvings. Symbols. Samuel's stomach twisted. His instincts screamed at him to turn back, but his legs wouldn't listen. The deeper he went, the stronger a foul smell became. Rotting flesh. He swallowed hard. After what felt like forever, he reached the end of the hallway. There was another door in front of him. Slowly, he pushed it open, and then he froze. The room was huge, with walls made of black stone. Candles burned in a circle, casting long, flickering shadows across the floor. And in the center of it all, bodies. Lifeless, pale bodies stacked on top of each other, their skin covered in deep scratches. Samuel's breath hitched. He took a shaky step back, his body trembling. No. This wasn't real. His eyes darted around the room, his brain refusing to process what he was seeing. But then he heard something. A soft, slithering sound. And before he could react, a voice. Samuel. Samuel whipped around. Pastor Deborah stood in the doorway, still wearing her elegant robe, her face calm. But something about her felt different. The warmth, the kindness, the glow, asterisk, all gone, asterisk. Now her eyes were cold, her smile sharp. Samuel's heartbeat pounded in his ears. Pastor, he whispered. She tilted her head. You weren't supposed to see this. Samuel's hands shook. What is this place? Pastor Deborah sighed. A place of power. Samuel stumbled backward, nearly tripping over the bodies. Pastor Deborah took a slow step forward. Tell me, Samuel, what do you think happens to those who receive instant miracles? Samuel shook his head rapidly. I don't understand. She smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was predatory. Nothing comes for free, Samuel. Miracles must be paid for. And these, she gestured to the bodies, are the payment. Samuel's stomach lurched. No, he shook his head violently. That's not true. You're a woman of God. You. Pastor Deborah laughed. The sound sent chills down his spine. Oh, Samuel, she whispered. You still don't see it, do you? She lifted her hands and suddenly, her fingernails lengthened into sharp claws. Her smooth skin rippled, scales appearing across her arms and neck. Her pupils narrowed into thin slits. And then, before Samuel's horrified eyes, she began to change. Her legs merged together, twisting into a long, powerful serpent's tail. Her mouth widened, revealing gleaming fangs dripping with venom. And then she spoke again, her voice no longer soft, no longer human. "I'm not just a pastor, Samuel. I am your God." Samuel's body finally obeyed his instincts. He ran. He ran through the door and into the dark hallway. His heart slammed against his ribs, his breath coming in short, panicked gasps. Behind him, he heard the slithering. "Fess, coming for him. You can't run from me, Samuel." Her voice was everywhere. He sprinted through the hallway, his mind screaming. He reached the end, burst through the hidden door, and stumbled back into the church. The room was empty now, the lights dim. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, slowly he turned around. Pastor Deborah stood in the doorway, watching him. But she was human again. Beautiful. Untouched. Like nothing had happened. She smiled. "You were never supposed to see that, Samuel." Samuel's chest heaved. His legs trembled beneath him. His brain refused to process what he had just seen. It had to be a dream. It had to be. But deep down he knew. This was real. And now, she knew that he knew. That night, Samuel sat in his room, his hands buried in his hair. His whole body shook. What had he done? What had he gotten himself into? He needed to leave the church. He needed to run. But even as he thought about it, something inside him whispered, "Asterisk, you belong to me now." Samuel squeezed his eyes shut. He had to get help. There was only one person who would listen. Bimbo was washing plates when Samuel burst into the kitchen, panting. She turned, frowning. "Brother? What's wrong?" Samuel grabbed her wrist. "You were right." Bimbo's frown deepened. "What are you talking about?" His voice trembled. "Pastor Deborah. She's not human." Bimbo's eyes widened. Samuel swallowed hard. "I saw it with my own eyes," he whispered. "She's a snake." Bimbo's breath hitched. Silence stretched between them. Then she whispered, "We have to leave." Bimbo stared at Samuel, her hands tightening around the plate she was holding. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. What did you just say?" she whispered. Samuel swallowed hard. His throat was dry, his hands shaking. "I saw her, Bimbo. I saw what she really is." Bimbo put the plate down slowly. She didn't blink. "You need to tell me everything." Samuel glanced around as if someone could hear them, even though they were alone. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I followed her last night. She went through a hidden door behind the altar." He paused, his breathing ragged. "Bimbo, I saw bodies. Dead bodies, piled up. Their skin was pale, like they had been drained of blood." Bimbo gasped, stepping back. "Jesus!" Samuel shook his head. "It wasn't just that. It changed." His voice broke slightly. "She's not human, Bimbo. She's a snake. I saw it with my own eyes." Bimbo felt cold all over. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the wall to steady herself. "I knew it. I knew something was wrong with that woman." Samuel rubbed his face. "We need to leave, Bimbo. I need to leave. I can't go back there." Bimbo nodded quickly. "Yes, we have to go far away from this place. You can't go near that church again." Samuel opened his mouth to agree, but then, a sudden wave of dizziness hit him. His knees buckled and he grabbed the edge of the sink for support. "Brother!" Bimbo rushed to his side, grabbing his arm. "What's wrong?" Samuel squeezed his eyes shut. His body felt heavy, like something was weighing him down. His chest tightened, his breathing shaky. And then, deep inside him, a voice whispered, "Asterisk, you can't run from me, Samuel." Samuel jerked back, his eyes snapping open. Bimbo was staring at him in shock. "Your eyes?" she breathed. Samuel blinked. "What?" "They turned gold. Just now." Samuel's stomach twisted. No, he whispered. No, no, no. Bimbo shook him. Brother, you need help. This thing is inside you. Samuel yanked away from her, his hands shaking violently. No, I won't let this happen to me. But deep down he could feel it. Something was changing inside him. Bimbo wasted no time. She grabbed Samuel's keys, threw a jacket over his shoulders, and pulled him toward the door. Where are we going? Samuel asked weakly. Bimbo's face was set. To someone who can help. Samuel didn't ask questions. He was too tired, too scared, too lost. They drove through the city, passing streetlights that flickered in the night. Samuel sat in silence, gripping the seatbelt tightly. He felt strange. His skin felt cold again. His tongue felt longer. He shook his head, trying to push the thought away. Bimbo, who are we going to see? He finally asked. Bimbo hesitated, then muttered, Baba Osita. Samuel's eyes widened. A herbalist? Bimbo nodded, her grip tightening on the steering wheel. He's the only one I know who might understand what's happening to you. Samuel opened his mouth to protest, but deep down he knew she was right. He wasn't normal anymore. Something was inside him, and if he didn't do something fast, he might never be the same again. They arrived at a small, dark compound on the outskirts of the city. The air smelled like burning herbs, and the only source of light was a dim lantern hanging from the porch. Bimbo helped Samuel out of the car, guiding him toward the small wooden house. She knocked 3 times. A few seconds later, the door creaked open. A tall, old man with piercing eyes stood in the doorway, dressed in a faded wrapper. His gray beard was long, and his skin was covered in tribal marks. His gaze immediately landed on Samuel, and just like that, his face darkened. Ah! His voice was deep, almost like a growl. Asterisk, asterisk, it has already started. Asterisk, asterisk. Samuel's body went rigid. Bimbo stepped forward. Baba, please help us. Something is happening to my brother. The old man sighed and stepped aside. Coming quickly, before it's too late. Inside the hut, the air was thick with the scent of incense. Strange symbols were carved into the wooden walls. Baba Osita gestured for Samuel to sit. The moment Samuel lowered himself onto the mat, Baba Osita placed a small clay bowl of water in front of him. Look inside, the old man instructed. Samuel hesitated, then leaned forward. At first, the water was still. Then, asterisk, asterisk, his reflection shifted, asterisk, asterisk. Instead of his face, he saw golden eyes staring back at him. A forked tongue flickered. And then, he saw Pastor Deborah. She was smiling. You belong to me, Samuel. Samuel jerked back, knocking the bowl over. His breathing was fast and uneven. His hands clawed at his shirt, as if trying to rip something off his skin. No, 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 no. Baba Osita placed a hand on his shoulder. Calm yourself. Samuel shook his head violently. What's happening to me? Baba Osita exhaled slowly. You have been marked. Samuel froze. What? Baba Osita sat back, his face unreadable. Pastor Deborah is not human. She is an Ikenla, a great serpent spirit that feeds on the desperate. She does not give miracles for free. She takes something in return, asterisk, asterisk. Samuel's heart slammed against his chest. She's trying to take me, he whispered. Baba Osita nodded gravely. Yes. And she has already started. That is why your body is changing. Samuel's breath caught. The cravings. The cold skin. His eyes turning gold. It wasn't just in his head. He was becoming one of them. Bimbo's voice broke the silence. How do we stop it? Baba Osita's eyes darkened. You must break the covenant before the transformation is complete. Samuel swallowed. How? The old man's face was grave. You must not attend the midnight service. Samuel frowned. What? Baba Osita leaned forward. Tonight is her final ritual. She will call you to the altar. If you kneel before her, the transformation will be complete. You will become hers forever. Samuel's stomach turned. But if you resist, Baba Osita continued, she will be weakened, her hold on you will break. Samuel's breathing was heavy. It sounded too simple. But then Baba Osita's voice lowered. Asterisk asterisk, she will come for you, Samuel. She will try to bring you back. You must fight, asterisk asterisk. Samuel's body went cold. Because deep inside him, he already knew. Pastor Deborah wasn't going to let him go. And before the night ended, she would come for him. Samuel sat in Baba Osita's hut, his hands clenched into fists. His heart was pounding, his mind racing. The weight of Baba Osita's words pressed down on him like a rock. She will come for you. The thought made his skin crawl. Bimbo sat beside him, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Baba, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. What do we do now? Baba Osita sighed deeply. He picked up a small leather pouch from the wooden table beside him and placed it in Samuel's hands. This is a protective charm, he said. Tie it around your waist. It will weaken her control over you. Samuel hesitated, his fingers trembling as he tied the pouch around his waist. Is this enough? Baba Osita looked at him seriously. No, you are the one who must fight her. Samuel swallowed hard. And if I lose? Baba Osita's face darkened. Then you will never be Samuel again. Silence filled the room. The only sound was the flickering of the candle burning beside them. Samuel exhaled shakily. So, I just have to stay away from the church. Baba Osita's expression remained unreadable. It is not that simple. She has already marked you. If you try to run, she will find you. The only way to be free is to face her and resist. Samuel's hands clenched. His body still felt strange, asterisk asterisk, cold asterisk asterisk, and unfamiliar. He could feel something deep inside him, something that didn't belong. He nodded slowly. I understand. Baba Osita stood up and threw some dried leaves into the fire, causing it to crackle and hiss. The smoke rose in thick spirals, filling the air with the scent of burning herbs. You must leave now, the old man said. And whatever happens, do not kneel before her. Do not speak her name after midnight. Do not look into her eyes, asterisk asterisk. Samuel felt a shiver crawl down his spine. Was this really happening? Bimbo reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly. We're in this together. Samuel nodded. But deep down he knew the truth. This was his battle. And the night was far from over. By the time they got back home, the sky was already turning dark. The streetlights flickered weakly, casting long shadows on the ground. Bimbo locked the doors immediately. She checked the windows twice, then turned to Samuel. We need to stay awake, she said. Samuel nodded. But he could already feel it. A strange pull in his chest. A whisper in his ears. Come to me, Samuel. He squeezed his eyes shut and pressed his fingers against his temples. He wouldn't listen, asterisk asterisk. Bimbo watched him carefully. Are you okay? Samuel forced a smile. I'm fine. But he wasn't. His skin felt tight, like something was crawling beneath it. His fingers twitched, his tongue felt wrong. The clock on the wall ticked slowly. 8 p.m. 9 p.m. 10 p.m. Samuel's breathing was shallow. Every passing second felt heavier, like the air was pressing down on him. The power went out. The entire house plunged into darkness. Bimbo sucked in a sharp breath. What just happened? Samuel grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight. His hand was shaking. And then, from outside the window, a soft hissing sound. Bimbo froze. Did you hear that? Samuel's stomach twisted. The hissing grew louder. Then suddenly, a knock on the door. Bimbo grabbed Samuel's arm. Brother! Another knock. Slow. Even, asterisk asterisk. Then a voice. So, familiar, asterisk asterisk. Samuel. Bimbo's grip tightened. Don't answer it. Samuel's breath was ragged. The knocking continued. Tap, asterisk asterisk. Then the voice called again, asterisk asterisk. Samuel, open the door. It was Pastor Deborah. Samuel's blood turned ice cold. The voice was so gentle, so soothing. Samuel, it called again. Come to me. Samuel's head ached. His body felt heavy. Bimbo shook him. Don't listen. But something inside him wanted to go. He could already see it in his mind. The church, the golden pulpit, Pastor Deborah smiling at him, arms outstretched. "Come, Samuel," the voice whispered. "Your place is with me." Samuel took a step forward. "No." Bimbo grabbed him, yanking him back. Samuel's eyes blinked rapidly. He breathed hard, shaking his head. The voice was inside him now. And then outside the door, a shadow moved. Bimbo held her breath. The air turned cold. A long, thin black tail slid under the door. Samuel's body jerked. She was inside the house. The lights flickered back on. And there she was. Pastor Deborah, standing in their living room. So beautiful, deadly. Samuel's chest tightened. She was smiling. But her eyes, her eyes were glowing gold, Bimbo pressed herself against the wall, her face pale with fear. Samuel's entire body felt weak. "Come to me, Samuel," Pastor Deborah whispered. His legs moved on their own. No, Bimbo screamed. "Brother, don't look at her." Samuel squeezed his eyes shut. But it was too late. His knees hit the floor. He was kneeling. Pastor Deborah smiled wider, stepping closer. Her fingers grew longer, sharp claws forming at the tips. "You are mine now," she whispered. Samuel felt it. Something was being pulled from him. His soul. He was losing himself. His body was no longer his. Bimbo ran to him. "Samuel, fight. Remember what Baba Osita said." Samuel's eyes rolled back. His body shook violently. Pastor Deborah placed a hand on his head. "It's over." Bimbo looked around frantically. The charm. She ripped the leather pouch from Samuel's waist and threw it at Pastor Deborah. The moment it touched her, she screamed. A loud, ear-piercing, inhuman scream. Her body convulsed, her skin rippling. And then, she began to change. Her face stretched, her jaw widening unnaturally. Her legs merged together, twisting into a thick, black snake's tail. The ground shook. Bimbo grabbed Samuel, shaking him. "Wake up!" Samuel's eyes snapped open. And suddenly he remembered. He wasn't hers. He wasn't hers. With everything in him, he fought. He pushed her out of his mind. Pastor Deborah let out another blood-curdling shriek. Her body burst into black smoke, twisting and turning. Then, with one final hiss, she disappeared. Silence. Samuel sat on the floor, gasping for breath. His body felt light. The heavy weight, the whispers, the coldness inside him, gone. Bimbo knelt beside him, her eyes wide. "Brother?" Samuel swallowed hard. "I'm free." Bimbo let out a sob of relief. They sat there, shaking, the room silent and still. But somewhere, far away, a shadow watched. And a voice whispered, "There will always be more people chasing fake miracles." Samuel sat on the floor, his breathing still ragged, his hands trembling. It was over. Or at least, it felt like it was over. The room was silent except for Bimbo's shaky breathing beside him. The air smelled of something burnt, but there was no fire. Just the heavy presence of what had just happened. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Bimbo slowly turned to him. "Brother, are you really free?" Samuel swallowed hard. He didn't know how to answer. He felt different. The weight on his chest, the coldness in his skin, the whispers in his head, gone, But something inside him was still afraid. What if she wasn't really gone? What if she was just waiting? His fingers twitched. He forced himself to breathe deeply. "I think so," he muttered. Bimbo didn't look convinced. She reached out and touched his arm, like she was checking if he was real. "Your skin feels warm again." Samuel blinked. He hadn't even noticed. For weeks, he had felt cold, like something inside him wasn't fully human. But now, he felt normal. Relief washed over him. He was really free. But before he could fully accept it, Bimbo's voice cut through his thoughts. What if she comes back? Samuel stiffened. That question hung in the air, heavy and dark. What if she did? What if she was still out there, watching, waiting? A shiver ran down his spine. "I don't know," he whispered. Bimbo's hands clenched. We need to be sure. Samuel nodded slowly. He knew what she meant. They had to go back to Living Fire Ministries. They had to see it for themselves. The night air was cool as they drove through the empty streets. The city was quiet, the streetlights flickering dimly. Samuel gripped the steering wheel tightly. His body still felt weak, but his mind was sharp. He had to know the truth. Bimbo sat beside him, her hands folded in her lap. She was tense, her eyes fixed on the road. As they approached the church, Samuel felt a chill creep up his spine. The building stood tall and silent. No lights, no sounds, no people. It looked abandoned. Samuel pulled the car to a stop. He and Bimbo exchanged a nervous glance. Then slowly they stepped out. The air smelled different, like old wood and something rotten. Bimbo swallowed hard. Something is wrong. Samuel nodded. Let's go inside. The moment they stepped into the church, Samuel froze. The place was completely empty. No chairs. No altar. No signs that anyone had ever worshipped here. Bimbo gasped. Where is everything? Samuel took a shaky step forward, his heart pounding. This wasn't possible. He had been here just days ago. He had seen the crowds. He had stood at this altar. But now, it was like it had never existed. The walls were bare. The floors were covered in dust. Samuel's throat went dry. She erased everything. Bimbo looked at him sharply. What do you mean? Samuel turned to her, his hands clenching into fists. She didn't just leave, Bimbo. She wiped every trace of herself from this place. Bimbo shuddered. But why? Samuel's chest tightened. He knew why. She wasn't just running. She was hiding. Just as they turned to leave, a voice echoed from the darkness. Looking for something? Samuel's blood froze. Bimbo grabbed his arm, her body stiff. Slowly they turned around. A man stood at the far end of the church. Tall, old, with deep scars on his face. His clothes were simple, but his eyes were sharp. Samuel's heart pounded. Who are you? The man stepped closer. Someone who knows what you're looking for. Bimbo's voice was wary. And what is that? The man stopped a few feet from them, his gaze steady. Pastor Deborah is gone. Samuel felt his breath hitch. She's really gone? The man nodded. For now. Bimbo swallowed. What do you mean, for now? The man sighed. She's an ancient spirit, child. You don't kill something like her. You only send her away. Samuel felt a wave of dread. She'll come back. The man nodded. One day, somewhere else, with a new name, a new face. Bimbo's fingers dug into Samuel's arm. Samuel's chest felt tight. All those people still looking for miracles. They wouldn't even see her coming. The man's eyes darkened. You survived her. But others won't be so lucky. Silence filled the air. Then the man turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. Samuel and Bimbo stood frozen. The truth settled heavily between them. Pastor Deborah was gone. But the next one was coming. And the world would never stop chasing fake miracles. Samuel and Bimbo stood frozen in the empty church. The stranger's words echoed in their minds. You don't kill something like her. You only send her away. Samuel felt like the air had been knocked out of his chest. Pastor Deborah was gone, but that didn't mean she was defeated. She was just hiding, waiting, watching, asterisk asterisk. Bimbo shifted beside him, wrapping her arms around herself. Brother, her voice was small, uncertain. What do we do now? Samuel took a shaky breath. He didn't know. For the first time in weeks, he didn't know. His life had been turned upside down, his faith shaken, his body almost lost to something he couldn't understand. He had come close to becoming a part of something dark, something evil. And yet, here he was. Alive. Free. But at what cost? Samuel turned toward Bimbo, his throat dry. We go home, he finally said. We leave this place behind. Bimbo hesitated, looking around the empty church one last time. Then she nodded. Just, let's go. Samuel turned on his heel and walked toward the exit, his steps heavy. Every part of him wanted to believe that this was over, that he could just move on. But deep down, He knew that wasn't true. The drive back home was quiet. Neither of them spoke. The streets were nearly empty, just a few cars moving lazily under the dim streetlights. When they finally reached their house, Bimbo got out first. She hesitated before unlocking the door, almost as if she was waiting for something to jump out at her. Samuel watched her, understanding exactly how she felt. The fear wasn't just in their heads anymore. It was real, asterisk asterisk. Bimbo finally pushed the door open. The house was exactly as they had left it. Silent, dark, still. But somehow, it felt different. Samuel stepped inside cautiously, his body tense. He expected something. A sign that she was still there. That she hadn't really left, asterisk asterisk. But nothing happened. The house was just a house. Bimbo exhaled loudly, dropping onto the couch. I feel like I haven't breathed in weeks. Samuel chuckled dryly. You and me both. She looked up at him, her eyes serious. So, what now? Samuel sighed and sat beside her. Now we rest. We forget. We try to be normal again. Bimbo didn't look convinced. Can we? After everything? Samuel stared at the floor. I don't know. But we have to try. A heavy silence settled between them. Then, Bimbo reached for his hand. Promise me something. Samuel looked at her. What? She swallowed. Promise me that no matter what happens, no matter what we hear or see, we will never chase miracles again. Samuel squeezed her hand. I promise. And for the first time in weeks, he meant it. Days passed. Then weeks. Life slowly returned to normal, or at least as normal as it could be. Samuel focused on work, keeping himself busy. Bimbo stayed at home most days, watching TV, reading, trying to move on. They never spoke about Pastor Deborah. Not once. Not because they had forgotten, but because they needed to forget. Every night, Samuel would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she was still out there. He imagined her somewhere far away, wearing a new face, standing before a new congregation, promising new miracles. The thought made his skin crawl. But he forced himself to push it away. That was someone else's problem now. Not his. One evening, just as the sun was setting, there was a knock at the door. Samuel and Bimbo froze. They exchanged a nervous glance. Bimbo swallowed hard. Are you expecting anyone? Samuel shook his head. No. The knock came again. So, patient, asterisk asterisk. Bimbo's hands trembled. Don't open it. Samuel hesitated. Something about the knock felt wrong. Slow, rhythmic, familiar. He stepped toward the door cautiously. Who is it? Silence. A voice. So, familiar, asterisk asterisk. Samuel. Bimbo gasped. Samuel's heart stopped. He knew that voice. It was hers. It was Pastor Deborah. Samuel's breath came in short gasps. His mind spun. This wasn't possible. She was gone. He had seen her vanish. He had felt the weight lift from his body. She couldn't be here. Bimbo grabbed his arm, her nails digging into his skin. Samuel, don't open that door. Samuel felt like he was floating. His body wasn't listening to him anymore. His hands moved on their own, reaching for the lock. No. This wasn't real. She wasn't real. Samuel. The voice was closer now. Inside the house. Bimbo screamed. Samuel spun around. And there she was. Pastor Deborah. Standing in their living room, wearing the same white robe, the same soft smile. Like she had never left. Bimbo shrank back, trembling. This isn't happening. This isn't real. But Samuel knew it was. Because he could feel her. The air was heavy, thick with her presence. Pastor Deborah took a step closer. Did you really think you could escape me? Samuel's throat tightened. He forced himself to speak. You don't own me. She tilted her head, her smile never fading. Oh, Samuel. Her eyes flashed gold. And then, the room shook. The walls rippled, as if reality itself was breaking apart. Bimbo clutched her head, screaming. Samuel fell to his knees, his body burning. Pastor Deborah's voice was everywhere. You are mine. Samuel clenched his teeth. Not again. He had fought her before. He had won. She couldn't take him back. He wouldn't let her. He forced himself to stand. Bimbo grabbed his arm, her eyes wide with terror. "Brother, what do we do?" Samuel took a deep breath. His mind was clear now. It had to end. He turned to Pastor Deborah, his hands steady. "No," he said firmly. "I don't belong to you." Her smile faltered. Samuel stepped forward. "You have no power here." The walls shook harder. The air grew colder. Pastor Deborah's eyes narrowed. "Do you really believe that?" Samuel didn't hesitate. "Yes." A flicker of something dark crossed her face. And then, she screamed. Her body shrank, her form twisting. Black smoke poured from her skin, filling the room. Samuel and Bimbo shielded their eyes. And when they looked again, she was gone. For good. The silence was deafening. Bimbo slumped onto the floor, breathing hard. Samuel stared at the empty space where Pastor Deborah had stood. Was it really over this time? He didn't know. But something in his chest felt like. He turned to Bimbo. "We're free." Bimbo looked at him, tears in her eyes. And this time he knew. They really were. Days later, Samuel picked up a newspaper. His hands froze as he read the headline. "New pastor performing miracles in another town." His stomach turned. He didn't need to see her picture to know. She was back. Somewhere. With a new name. And a new flock. But he wasn't going after her. Not anymore. Because he knew one thing for sure. The world would always chase fake miracles. But he never would again. Never. Samuel sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the newspaper in his hands. His fingers trembled as he reread the headline. "New pastor performing miracles in another town." It had only been a few days since Pastor Deborah vanished, but deep down he knew she was never really gone. She had only moved on. Bimbo walked in and stopped when she saw the look on his face. "What is it?" she asked. Samuel swallowed hard and handed her the newspaper. She skimmed the article quickly. Then her hands tightened around the paper. "It's her, isn't it?" Samuel didn't answer. Bimbo threw the newspaper onto the table. "I knew it. She didn't die. She just changed places. Changed names." Samuel took a deep breath. "She'll keep doing it. Over and over. New people, new miracles, new victims." Bimbo's jaw clenched. "And no one will stop her." Silence filled the room. Then Bimbo turned to him. "Samuel, we need to warn people." Samuel looked up at her, surprised. "Warn who?" "The world. Someone needs to expose her. Tell people the truth." Samuel let out a dry laugh. "And who would believe us, Bimbo? That a popular pastor is actually a snake spirit? That miracles aren't free? That people are vanishing under her hands?" Bimbo hesitated. Samuel leaned forward. "People don't want to hear the truth. They only want the miracle." Bimbo sighed. She knew he was right. People only saw what they wanted to see. She sat beside him. "So what do we do now?" Samuel exhaled, running a hand over his face. "We live. We move forward." Bimbo looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Yes. We move forward." And for the first time, Samuel actually believed it. Weeks passed. For the first time in a long time, life was quiet. Samuel returned to his work, keeping himself busy. Bimbo started volunteering at a local church, helping women and children. They didn't talk about Pastor Deborah anymore. They didn't need to. Some things were better left in the past. One evening, Samuel was walking home from work when he passed a street preacher. The man was shouting, promising wealth, healing, and success to anyone who came forward for prayer. Samuel stopped for a moment, watching the eager faces in the crowd. It was always the same. People would always look for miracles. Always chase what seemed easy. And somewhere, Pastor Deborah, or whatever she called herself now, was waiting for them. Samuel shook his head and kept walking. He wasn't chasing miracles anymore. Not ever again. That night, Samuel was dreaming. He was standing in the middle of an empty field, the wind blowing around him. It was calm, peaceful. Then a voice. "Samuel." Samuel's body stiffened. Slowly he turned. There she was. Pastor Deborah, dressed in pure white, her eyes glowing gold. Samuel didn't move. She smiled softly. You can still have it, you know. Samuel's fists clenched. Have what? She took a step closer. The power, the wealth, everything you ever wanted. I can still give it to you. Samuel's chest tightened. She was testing him, trying to see if he still had weakness inside him. Samuel lifted his chin. I don't want anything from you. Pastor Deborah's smile didn't fade. Are you sure? Samuel stepped back. Yes. Her golden eyes flashed. Then, just like that, she disappeared, and Samuel woke up. Samuel sat up, breathing hard. His room was dark. The only sound was the ticking of the clock on the wall. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then slowly he exhaled. She had tested him one last time, and he had passed. Samuel lay back down, closing his eyes. Tomorrow was a new day, a normal day, and for the first time in a long time, he was free. Completely free.